The princess did not cry often. Royals were trained not to. But tonight, as the silver moons drifted across the sky, Princess sat alone in her empty crystal balcony, with her trembling hands covering her face. "I look wrong," she whispered to no one. "I look broken." A tiny drop escaped her shimmering violet eyes, glowing faintly as it fell. On her planet, even tears carried light, but did not feel bright at all. She felt like fatting dust. Behind her, the ballroom echoed with music and laughter, celebrating the new alliance between and the strange newcomers from a distant blue planet called Earth. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was shining. Except her. Pulled the hood lower over her head, hiding the gentle bioluminescent lines on her cheeks, lines every princess inherited. Her people called them marks of radiance. She called them curses. She had seen the way guests from other star systems flinched at the glowing patterns. She had heard whispers all her life. Too bright. Too strange. Not beautiful, intimidating. And if other aliens thought that, what would the humans think? They already looked so fragile and soft, like walking poems. Could not bear the thought of scaring one. Just when she wiped her cheeks and tried to steady her breathing, she heard footsteps approaching the balcony. Light ones, hesitant, and definitely not. A human. She panicked, spun around too quickly, knocking over a crystal cup that shattered into glittering shards. Oh, stars, don't come closer. I'm not fit for. She had no idea what she was even saying anymore. The man froze in place, hands up like he'd walked into a wild animal cage. "Whoa, sorry," he said quickly. "I'm harmless, I swear, very squishy, very breakable, please don't blast me." Despite her misery blinked, humans really were strange, squishy, and proud of it. The man stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a frightened creature. He had messy dark hair, warm brown eyes, and wore a Navy diplomat uniform slightly wrinkled, as if he'd ironed it by wrestling it. "My name's Eli," he said with a soft smile. "I'm supposed to meet the princess for the official greeting, but I think I just found someone crying on a balcony instead." She stiffened. "Why you shouldn't see me like this?" "Why not?" "Because," her voice cracked, "because I'm ugly." Eli did not laugh. He did not step back. Instead, something very human, very gentle, fell over his expression. He moved closer. "Princess," he said quietly, "please look at me." She shook her head. "I can't." But he waited, patiently, softly, like she was a sunrise he didn't want to chase away. Slowly, painfully, lowered her hood. The moonlight spilled across her glowing cheek lines, painting them in shimmering blues and purples. Eli inhaled sharply. Not in fear, but in awe. "Whoa," he breathed. Squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for disgust. Then he whispered, so soft she almost didn't hear it. "You are beautiful." Her heart jolted. "And no," she stammered. "You don't understand. Humans prefer symmetry, softness. I am too bright, too different. People stare." "Well," Eli said simply, "I'm starring because I'm stunned. That's different." Her breath caught. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Look, I may not be an expert, but I know beauty when it's glowing right in front of me, literally glowing." Tried not to smile, she failed. For the first time all evening, the weight in her chest loosened a little. The music inside swelled louder as the royal announcer called out for the princess to join the ceremony. She flinched. "I can't go back in there, not like this." Eli offered his hand, not commanding, not demanding, just offering. "Then let me walk with you. If anyone stares, they'll stare at both of us. I'll even make weird human faces at them until they're confused." Despite everything, a tiny laugh escaped her, a soft chime like wind through glass. "Why would you do that for me?" she asked. "Because," he said, smiling gently, "you shouldn't have to face a room full of people alone when you're hurting. And because," his voice softened, almost trembling, "no one that beautiful should be hiding on a balcony crying." Her glowing cheeks brightened like sunrise. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. And in that moment, Soft, fragile, trembling, hope sparked inside her for the first time in years. She didn't know it yet, but that simple human whisper was about to change the fate of two worlds. And hers most of all. His fingers trembled as she followed Eli down the grand hallway. The crystal chandeliers overhead scattered light like a galaxy falling apart, and the polished floors reflected her glowing lines in strange, twisting shapes. Every step made her feel heavier, like gravity had doubled just for her. The doors of the ballroom loomed ahead. Music spilled out, elegant and frightening. Diplomats from countless worlds were there, dressed in silks, metals, and fabrics that shimmered with starlight. They were talking, laughing, and, most terrifying of all, watching. His chest tightened. She imagined every eye turning toward her, every whisper carving into her skin. Too bright, too strange, too alien. "Princess, you're shaking," Eli said softly, still holding her hand. "I promise I'll be your shield." She shook her head, but he didn't let go. Somehow that small act, holding hands, made her feel like she could breathe underwater. Like maybe, just maybe, she could face this. The doors opened. Music faltered for a moment as if the room itself sensed her arrival. And then the stares began. Humans and other interstellar guests, all eyes were drawn to her glowing face, to the strange, shimmering marks that she hated. She froze. Her knees felt like jelly. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor like mist. Eli leaned closer, whispering, "Remember what I said. You are beautiful, not in some boring, safe way, but in a way that makes people stop and feel. That's real beauty." Swallowed hard, it was easy to feel invisible, but suddenly something fierce flickered inside her. Maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to vanish. Maybe she could stand here and exist. And so she did. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her chin. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some murmured in admiration. Some humans blinked, uncertain. Others simply froze, unprepared for someone so alien yet mesmerizing. Eli gave her a small, encouraging nod. "See," he whispered. "They're looking at you not to laugh, not to mock, but because they're seeing something rare, something alive." Her glowing cheeks flickered nervously. "I don't know if I can do this." "You're already doing it," Eli said. "You're here, that's the first step. The rest, we'll deal with it together." Then came the challenge, the formal greeting. Diplomats were approaching, one by one, extending their hands, nodding politely, murmuring compliments. And Princess smiled, just a little shaky, unsure, but real. Some whispered behind their fans, "She is different and yet stunning." Some humans leaned toward one another, murmuring, "She glows, she's alive." Anne's heart began to lift. She realized something she had never allowed herself to think. Maybe she wasn't just a freak of light. Maybe she could be herself and still be worthy of love. Then came the real test. Ambassador, a stern alien with sharp, metallic features, stepped forward. His eyes, cold and calculating, scanned her like he was reading every secret in her mind. "You are unlike any royal we have seen," he said, voice low and slightly accusatory. "Your appearance, it is unsettling." Stomach plummeted. She felt the old panic rise, the tears threatening again. But before they could fall, Eli stepped in. "She's also beautiful. And you," he gestured at, eyes steady, "are going to respect her like a diplomat, or you'll have me to answer too." A quiet ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Eli, human, squishy, soft, had just protected her. And somehow, it worked. Blinked, apparently unprepared for this kind of human audacity, and muttered something about protocol before stepping back. Exhaled, feeling a strange new warmth, a combination of fear, relief, and gratitude. Her glowing lines shimmered brighter, almost dancing. She dared to glance at Eli. "You really believe me?" she whispered. "I do," he replied simply. "And I think everyone else will, too, eventually." And in that moment, as music swelled and the stars outside winked, realized something terrifying and wonderful. She could be herself, she could shine. She could stand next to a human who had made her feel seen. And maybe, just maybe, she could even fall in love. Because love, she realized with a quiet thrill, might just be as brave as stepping into a room full of stairs and surviving. The room had not broken her. She had survived. and she had never felt more alive. The ballroom had quieted, almost reluctantly, as if it didn't know how to deal with someone so luminous. His heart still raced, but there was a strange thrill in the panic that usually dominated her. She had survived the stares. She had survived the whispers, and she had Eli's hand, warm and reassuring like a lifeline in a storm. But not everyone was impressed. Court gossip moved faster than light on her planet, and soon the subtle frowns and mutters began to circle like shadows around her. "A human influencing the princess?" One noble whispered behind a jeweled fan. Another snickered softly. "He is so fragile, so unworthy, can she not see?" His glowing cheeks dimmed slightly. The old voice in her head, her own cruel critic, was awake again. "See, even humans think you're strange. Even humans are too weak to stand beside you." Eli noticed the change immediately. "Princess," he whispered, leaning close. His eyes searched hers. "Hey, don't listen to them, not a word, look at me." She shook her head, trying to fight the lump in her throat. It's not that easy. They're everywhere, and what if they're right?" Eli's hand squeezed hers gently. "They're not. You're the most incredible person I've ever met. And glowing lines or not, they're not scary. They're you. That's what makes you amazing." Felt heat rise to her face. Her chest tightened, not in fear, but in a strange, tender ache she couldn't name. Every word Eli spoke made her heart drum in a rhythm that was frighteningly human, frighteningly alive. The night continued, the music shifting from elegant strings to a slower, softer melody. Couples began to dance and felt the weight of expectation pull at her. She wanted to retreat to her balcony, to hide in the quiet shadows, to vanish like she had done for years. But Eli's presence was a tether, a small anchor keeping her grounded. "Dance with me?" he asked suddenly, with that same awkward charm humans had that made them seem almost foolishly brave. She blinked. I don't know how." "Doesn't matter," he said, smiling. "I'll teach you step by step, and if we stumble together." Something inside her loosened. She nodded, letting him lead her to the dance floor. The moment her hands touched his, the world seemed to shrink. No noble whispers, no judging eyes, no stares that made her feel like a monster. Just Eli, just warmth, just hope. And then it happened. Someone whispered something cruel, a sharp, cutting remark from an older noble. "She cannot dance like a proper princess. The human weakling will only embarrass her further." Froze, her cheeks burned, not from the music, not from dancing, but from humiliation. She felt tears prickling again. Eli noticed immediately. He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just held her closer and whispered softly, almost like a spell. "You are more graceful than anyone here. You are glowing for a reason. Step with me and they'll never see anything but your light." And just like that, she did. Step by step, guided by Eli, let herself move. Her glowing lines shimmered with every motion, reflecting the soft chandelier light. She spun once, stumbled, laughed nervously, and found herself laughing again, lighter, freer. The ballroom fell silent for a moment. Eyes widened. And then applause, not just polite but genuine, admiring, even awed. People were watching her not with fear but with wonder. His heart raced. She had never imagined this could happen, not here, not now, not ever. When the music ended, Eli bowed with exaggerated flair, making her laugh softly, genuine laughter this time. "You see," he whispered, "you just changed the entire room, and it was effortless." For a moment allowed herself to believe it. The warmth in her chest spread, fierce and comforting. Maybe she wasn't the ugly, unwanted princess she had always feared. Maybe she could be something more. Then the whispers began again, not from the nobles but from inside her. "Doubt, fear, you are different, you are strange, you cannot belong here." Eli noticed the flicker in her eyes. He lifted her chin gently with one finger. "Don't let the shadows inside you win. You are beautiful, you are strong, and if anyone dares to tell you otherwise, well, they'll have to face me first." His breath caught, and for the first time that night, she didn't feel the sting of shame. She felt protected. She felt seen. She felt something else, too, something that scared her more than the whispers ever could. Because she realized, with a trembling heart, that she was beginning to care for him. And not just a little. More than she thought was possible. And in that moment, as the stars outside winked and the music played softly in the background, made a quiet promise to herself. She would not hide. She would not vanish. She would face this world, her fears, and maybe, just maybe, her heart. Even if it meant falling. Even if it meant trusting a human. Even if it meant loving someone who could, at any moment, break her fragile world. The morning after the ballroom woke in her crystal chamber, the faint glow of her bioluminescent lines dim but still visible. The room smelled faintly of jasmine and polished stone. For a moment, she allowed herself to remember last night, the dancing, Eli's warmth, the way the room had fallen silent in awe. A small smile tugged at her lips. She had felt alive, seen, beautiful. But then reality hit. Court politics were ruthless. Every gesture, every word, every glance would be analyzed, whispered about, and twisted. Even a human walking beside her could spark gossip that would follow her for a lifetime. Pressed her palms to her cheeks, wishing the glowing lines would fade, wishing she could hide forever. She was supposed to be the perfect princess, the flawless emblem of, and yet, for the first time, she had felt imperfect and free. Her freedom, however, came with consequences. A soft knock at the door startled her. Princess, Eli's voice, gentle, patient. She allowed him in. He stepped cautiously, not as a diplomat, but as someone who cared. "Good morning," he said softly. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Shook her head. "No, it's fine. I don't know if I can face them again." Eli sat on the edge of the crystal chaise, leaning forward. "You don't have to face them alone, not ever, but—" He hesitated, voice dropping slightly. "I need to be honest. Last night I could see it in their eyes. Some of them didn't like me being there. Some think I'm weak. Some think I influence you in ways they don't approve of." Her heart sank. "I knew it. I knew it would be a mistake to let a human near me. They're fragile, soft. They'll never understand what it's like to be me." Eli's hand found hers again. "I may be human, but I understand you. Not like them, not like anyone else. I see you. And that's all that matters." Her chest tightened. The warmth that had begun to bloom in her heart last night threatened to become unbearable. She wanted to believe him, but doubt crept in like a shadow. What if the whispers, the stares, the disapproval crushed them both? "I want to believe you," she whispered. "But what if they're right? What if I'm too strange, too alien?" Eli's fingers curled around hers, firm and grounding. "Then let them think what they want. You are not their expectations. You are yourself. And if anyone tries to tear that away, I'll stand with you. Always." For a moment wanted to melt into his arms, to let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, love could exist between worlds. But fear, that constant companion, whispered they will never understand. "You will be alone. You will fall." "Eli," she murmured, voice trembling. "I don't know if I can risk it. I don't know if I can trust someone this much." He leaned closer, brushing a glowing strand of hair from her face. "Princess, you've trusted me already. Look at your hands. They're not trembling from fear now. They're trembling because you care, because you're brave, because you're alive." Her breath hitched. His words, soft but certain, pierced the walls she had built around herself. She wanted to argue. She wanted to push him away. But the warmth in his eyes, the unwavering belief in her, made her silent. And in that silence, something shifted. For the first time, allowed herself to hope, to imagine a life where she didn't hide her glow, where she didn't shrink from the stares, where she could love freely without fear. But reality would not wait. A knock at the chamber door shattered the moment. One of the royal aides entered, a messenger of urgent news. "Princess, the council wishes to see you immediately. There have been concerns about your interactions with the human diplomat." His heart thudded, her glow flickered nervously. Eli stood, hands still entwined with hers. "We'll face it together," he whispered. The princess nodded, swallowing her fear. She was scared, terrified even, but something inside her refused to shrink. She had faced whispers, stares, and doubt before, and now she would face judgment, scandal, and suspicion. But she would not face it alone. As they walked toward the council chamber, the hall seemed colder, the crystal floors reflecting every fear she had ever known. Yet, Eli's presence, steady and unwavering, was like sunlight cutting through shadow. and for the first time in her life realized something profoundly human and profoundly terrifying. Love was not gentle. Love was brave. Love was defiant. Love demanded vulnerability. And she was ready to try, even if it meant risking everything. The council chamber was colder than the balcony had ever been. Crystal walls reflected light in sharp angles, but not warmth. Its glow flickered nervously as she stepped forward, Eli by her side. Every noble's eyes were like knives, sharp and measuring, slicing through the fragile armor she had worn all her life. "Princess," intoned High Chancellor, her voice smooth and chilling, "we are concerned. The human diplomat, you spend too much time in his presence. It is unseemly, dangerous even." His hands trembled slightly, her glowing lines dimming. I only spent time with him because he helped me, because he—" "You are a royal of," snapped. "Your first duty is to your people, your legacy, not to whims of a fragile, foreign creature. Do you understand?" Eli stepped forward, his human form trembling only slightly with anger, but his voice remained calm, steady. "With all due respect, High Chancellor, Princess' duty is not to live in fear of judgment or whispers. It is to be herself. And she is extraordinary, beautiful, and brave more than any of you will ever understand." A hushed murmur spread through the council. Shock, disbelief, and perhaps admiration. His heart pounded. She wanted to shrink, to melt into the floor like she had done for years. But Eli's hand, warm and steady, anchored her. She took a deep breath, and for the first time she raised her chin. "I will not hide," she said, voice trembling but clear. "I will not shrink to fit your idea of perfection. And yes, Eli has helped me, because I am human enough to need someone, and I am strong enough to accept it." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Rarely spoke this way in front of the council. They rarely, if ever, challenged tradition. Chancellor's eyes narrowed, her thin lips pressed into a hard line. "Princess, you are not thinking clearly. You risk everything, your people, your crown, your dignity, by aligning yourself with a human." His glow pulsed, bright and furious. "No," she said, louder this time, her voice carrying across the crystal chamber. "I am not aligning with anyone but myself, and if being seen as myself, if being strong enough to love, is dangerous, then I will take that danger. I will not be invisible anymore." The chamber went silent. Even the humans in attendance seemed to hold their breath. Eli's eyes glimmered with pride. "You see," he whispered, leaning close, "that's the princess I knew existed." Blinked back tears, but they were no longer tears of fear. They were tears of triumph, of relief, of the strange, wild joy that came with standing for herself. High Chancellor's face twisted with frustration. "You will regret this, Princess. The Council does not forget." Didn't flinch, she met the Chancellor's gaze, unafraid. "And I will regret nothing that makes me feel alive." Eli's hand lifted hers, and for a moment the chamber seemed smaller, softer, almost human. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "You've shown them and yourself what courage really looks like." A quiet tension hung in the air. Whispers spread among the council, but this time didn't hear them as threats. She heard them as proof that she had mattered, that she had moved hearts, that she had shaken the cold, rigid halls of her world. When the council finally dismissed them, the cold formality melted into stunned silence. Eli guided her out of the chamber, hands still entwined. You were incredible," he murmured. "I've never seen anyone so fearless." Allowed herself a small, shaky laugh. I was terrified." "And you did it anyway." He brushed a glowing strand of hair from her face. "That's real bravery, that's real beauty, that's you." Her glowing cheeks brightened in the soft sunlight streaming through the crystal windows. She wanted to say more, so many things, but words failed her. Instead, she leaned into him, letting herself feel the warmth and protection he offered. For the first time in her life, realized that love, real love, was not gentle. It was not easy. It was dangerous, raw, and beautiful, and it made her feel alive in a way nothing else had ever done. Eli smiled down at her, eyes filled with unspoken promise. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we face it together." His fingers tightened around his. "Together," she echoed. And as they walked through the corridors of her palace, past the whispers and judging eyes, something changed forever. She was no longer the princess who feared her own reflection. She was no longer the girl who hid in the shadows. She was a princess who glowed, who loved, who was alive. And she would never go back. The night was quiet outside's palace, but inside the halls felt heavy with whispers. Word of her defiance had spread faster than starlight. Courtiers and council members alike were unsettled. Some were angry, some were curious. All were watching. Sat alone in her chamber, hands folded in her lap, staring at her glowing lines. The soft moonlight spilled across her face, illuminating the colors she had once thought of as flaws. For the first time, though, they felt like part of her strength. And yet doubt lingered. What if they're right, she whispered to herself. What if I've made a mistake? What if Eli, if this is too much? A gentle knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Princess, Eli's voice, warm, soft, steady. Looked up, trying to muster a brave smile. Eli, I don't know if I can face tomorrow. The council, the nobles, they will never forgive what we did today. Eli stepped inside, closing the door behind him. You don't have to face it alone. We face it together. Remember. His hand reached for hers, and she didn't pull away. I know, she murmured, but it feels so heavy, all of it. The stares, the whispers, the expectations. I've carried them my whole life. And now you don't have to carry them alone, he said, voice unwavering. I'm here, we're here, and nothing can take that away. His chest tightened, not with fear this time, but with something deeper. A strange, overwhelming ache that she hadn't felt before. She realized it was care, desire, love. Her fingers brushed his hand, tentative, almost afraid. Eli. I know, he whispered. Me too. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. No palace walls, no council, no judging eyes. Just them, two beings from completely different worlds, finding connection in a universe that often sought to separate them. And then the shadows arrived. A sudden commotion echoed down the hallway. Guards rushed past, voices sharp and urgent. And Eli exchanged a glance, instinctively moving toward the balcony for safety. What's happening? She asked, fear creeping back. Eli's eyes narrowed. Trouble, someone doesn't like the example we're setting. By the time they reached the balcony, a small group of radical nobles had gathered in the palace courtyard. They carried banners, symbols of disapproval, and their faces were twisted with anger. Murmurs grew into chants, shouts accusing of defying tradition, of dishonoring her crown, of allowing a human to influence her. Froze, the glowing lines along her face pulsed nervously. She felt the old panic clawing at her chest. But then Eli stepped forward, placing himself between her and the crowd. Back off, he said, voice firm, commanding. His stance was unassuming, but there was a strength in him that radiated like sunlight. You will not frighten her, you will not shame her, you will not touch her. Some nobles recoiled, others hesitated, but the chants continued. His heart pounded. She wanted to hide, she wanted to vanish, she wanted to scream. But she didn't, because Eli's hand was in hers, anchoring her, because he had reminded her of her strength. Because for the first time she believed that love, real love, was a shield she could hold. I am not afraid, she said, voice quivering but rising. I will not hide, I will not let fear dictate my life. And yes, I care for Eli, because he sees me, and that makes me braver than I have ever been. The crowd faltered, murmurs replaced shouts. Even the radicals seemed unsure now. Eli's eyes softened as he turned to her. See, you didn't just survive, you changed their world too, and ours is just beginning. His cheeks glowed brighter, not from panic, but from a fierce, blazing confidence. She pressed closer to Eli, letting herself feel the warmth of his presence, the courage in his gaze. And for the first time, she realized something terrifying and wonderful. No matter what shadows came from outside, no matter how loud the world shouted, as long as they had each other, they could shine. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if they would always be safe, if the council would relent, if love could survive in a palace built on tradition. But she did know this: she would fight, for herself, for him, for them. The stars outside twinkled, indifferent yet eternal, and glow matched them, bold, unashamed, alive. Eli squeezed her hand. No matter what comes next, princess, remember this moment. We survived together. Smiled through the fear, through the uncertainty, through the tension that threatened to swallow her. Together, she whispered. And with that, the first true battle of hearts, love against fear, had been won. The dawn broke over, casting pale light across the crystal palace. Stood on her balcony, the city below awakening to the first rays of sun. Her glowing lines shimmered softly, no longer trembling with fear, but steady and proud. For the first time, she felt the glow inside matched the glow outside. She was no longer hiding. Eli stepped beside her, brushing a strand of her shimmering hair from her face. His brown eyes were gentle, steady, full of warmth. "Good morning," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "Sleep well." Shook her head, laughing softly. "No, I couldn't stop thinking about last night, about the council, about us." Eli smiled, and her heart pounded. She had thought about this moment for years, though never with a human, never with anyone who made her feel seen. "And I realized something. I realized that I'm not afraid anymore. Not of the council, not of whispers, not of being myself, not of loving." Eli's hand found hers, fingers entwining. His voice shook just a little. "I've never known anyone like you. You're brilliant, you're fierce, you're alive in a way that overwhelms me. I—" She placed her other hand over his, stopping him. "I know." He blinked, startled. You know." Smiled, glowing brighter in the morning light. "I've known from the moment you whispered it last night, that tiny sentence, that human voice telling me, 'You are beautiful.' I finally believe it, because you believed it." Eli's lips parted. He leaned closer, cautious, as if afraid she might disappear. "You are beautiful," he repeated, softly, deliberately. "And not just your glow, not just your lines, not just your alien perfection. You, all of you, your courage, your heart, your laughter, your tears, every piece." His chest tightened. The tears she had held back for decades finally spilled, glowing softly on her cheeks. "I've waited so long to hear that," she whispered, "from someone who truly sees me." "You don't need to wait anymore," Eli said, leaning closer still. "I see you, I choose you, every day and every moment." Her heart raced as he took both her hands in his. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, two beings from different worlds, daring to cross impossible boundaries, daring to trust. And then he kissed her hand. A shiver ran through her glow. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a promise, a lifeline, a declaration that she was worthy, loved, and not alone. The palace suddenly felt smaller, warmer, alive with possibility, lifted her chin, looking out over the city. "Eli, we've changed so much already, and yet," her voice wavered, emotional and trembling, "I want the world to see us, to see me, to see this love." Eli smiled, brushing a tear from her glowing cheek. "Then we show them, together, no hiding, no apologies, no fear." Laughed softly, a sound like wind over crystal. "I never thought I would feel like this, brave, alive, loved." "You are," Eli said, his voice firm and tender. "You've always been, you just needed someone to remind you." She leaned into him, allowing herself to rest against his warmth. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." He kissed her forehead, tender and protective. "Thank you for letting me." The city below slowly stirred. The council, the nobles, the whispers, they could wait. For once, didn't care. She had survived fear, doubt, judgment, and shadows. She had chosen to glow, to be herself, and to trust a human with her heart. And he had chosen her. For the first time in her life, felt whole. She felt proud. She felt beautiful, not because of the council's approval, not because of tradition, not because of anyone else, but because someone truly loved her for who she was. Eli tightened his hand around hers. "Are you ready?" he asked. Smile was radiant, glowing brighter than the rising sun. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm ready to shine for us, for me, for love." And together, standing on the balcony, glowing lines mingling with morning light, two hearts, alien and human, faced the world. They did not hide. They did not fear. They simply shone. And in that shining, the world was forced to look. Finally understood, beauty was not about perfection. Beauty was not about approval. Beauty was about being seen, being loved, and daring to glow in spite of everything. And she had been seen. and she had been loved. Forever,